Hi, my name is Isabella and I'm an instructor at the Fantastically Fit Forever Gym. Our gym is pretty popular around here, especially for high schoolers your age. We prepare students not only physically but mentally too. Here's a little sneak peek of how we educate and prepare our students. Although I want to go over the muscles of the human body, there's just way too many. There's actually over 600 muscles in the human body. So I'm just going to go briefly over through the major muscles. So muscle A stabilizes and moves the scapula. Muscle B is a prime mover of the arm and overball stabilizer of the shoulder joint and upper arm. Muscle C flexes, adducts, and internally rotates the humerus. Muscle D flexes the elbow and rotates the forearm. Muscle E flexes the trunk interiorly. Muscle F oblique actually has two parts. External oblique is an opposite side rotation muscle that flexes the trunk interiorly and laterally, whereas the internal oblique is the same side rotation muscle that is important for movements for the trunk, maintaining normal abdominal tension and increasing intra-abdominal pressure. Muscle G extends the leg at the knee joint and to flex the thigh at the hip joint. Muscle H extends the forearm at the elbow joint and also contributes to the extension and adduction of the arm at the shoulder joint. Muscle I adduct, medially rotate and extend the arm at the glenohumeral joint. Muscle J straightens the back and provides for side-to-side rotation. Muscle K extends and laterally rotates the hip joint. Muscle L makes it possible to extend your leg straight behind your body and to bend your knee. Last but not least, muscle M is the main plantar flexor of the ankle joint and also a powerful knee flexor. Alright, so now that you know the major muscles of the human body and why they're so important, now I'm going to tell you what I like to call the love and hate relationship between sports and muscles. So here in the slide you can see basketball, volleyball, and football. So those are the three sports I'm going to pick out. And so the muscles that are involved for basketball and volleyball are both upper body, whereas the football is lower body. And so I'm going to tell you exactly which muscles. And so for playing basketball, it activates your upper body muscles, as in the muscles that control your shoulder joint, shoulder blades, elbows, and wrists. For instance, dribbling and doing long range basketball shots, use your deltoids, triceps, biceps, and forearm muscles. Likewise, volleyball uses the biceps, triceps, and deltoids muscles. For example, in volleyball, the wrist would catch the ball to keep it in control. The arm muscles would help to push the ball up and out, and the back muscles would help for stabilization when on the ground. On the other hand, for football, you would use your glutes, that's in your buttocks, your quads, and hamstrings, which all provide the force behind many football movements. For instance, your glutes and hamstrings drive your legs back behind you, whereas your quads extend your knees while playing. Alright, so now adding on to the love and hate relationship between sports and muscles, I want to tell you about something you're probably doing wrong, and that is proper stretching technique. And I know what you're saying, I'm an athlete, I've been doing this for several years, I know how to stretch, that's the easiest thing in the book. What if I told you you were wrong, you weren't doing it exactly as you were supposed to? So on this slide you can see 3 steps. And these steps are important, they're so simple, but they're important, and a lot of athletes don't do them. So first off, you have to do warm-ups. Second step is to do dynamic stretches. And third off is to do static stretches after your workout. And so now I'm going to tell you more in depth what do I mean. Alright, so for the first step, you should always start with some mild aerobic warm-up so that your blood can go to the tissue before doing any stretching. And so warming up increases blood flow, which overall increases the temperature in the muscle, which makes the collagen fibers more elastic. And then second off, to improve range of motion and avoid injury, you need to do stretches, of course, but you need to do dynamic stretches, as in slow, controlled movements. And so yoga is a great example that a lot of people actually do, but not in most sports and practices your age, especially high school teams. And so after you do your workout and you finish it, you have to do some static exercises, which a lot of people don't do. They usually just do stretches before the workout and not before and after, which is a terrible idea. And so I'm going to tell you some personal examples I have and some memories I can recall, anecdotes. So first off, a memory I can recall is that when I did gymnastics, my team would always start off by doing like slow jogs or brisk walks, about 10 laps around the mat. And then after we finished that, we would walk around like the little front area of the building. And so then we would proceed to our workout. And once we were done with our workout, we would go back to that little strip of the building, and we would do butterfly stretches, head to knee forward bends, and seal stretches, just to name a few static stretches. On the other hand, when I did cross country, my team would always start off by running around the washroom house for I don't know how long. I just remember we would run around to start off our practice. And then after, we would do dynamic exercises, like we would do like goose step marches, knee lifts, and butt kicks, to name a few. However, the thing is, after our workout, we would rarely stretch after workouts, which is a terrible idea, and let me tell you why. Whenever I did cross country and I went home, I would realize how rigid, painful, and my body ached. And that wasn't the case when I did gymnastics. My body felt amazing when I did gymnastics, but not cross country. And I'm pretty sure this is why, and this is a very common issue that a lot of athletes have. This demonstrates the importance of static stretches after your workout. And some key tips is also to don't painfully stretch. Don't do it until it hurts. Like, that's a terrible idea. Why would you do that? And also, warm-ups and stretches, like, they vary for your specific workout. Like, you have to learn like different ones specific to what you're gonna do. And then last but not least, again, you're stretching to de-stress yourself. Don't do the opposite. So my last bit about this love and hate relationship are the muscular disorders and treatments. So at the bottom of the slide, you can see 3 models that are nacho shaped, and in the center of each model is the muscular disorder example I'm going to provide, and the treatments are listed around that disorder. And before I start, I'd like to tell you that I'm going to provide you like sport examples where it's most commonly found in, but it's not limited to only that sport. It's just an example so you yourself can relate to, or you can get a better example of what it is. Alright, so tendinitis. So tendinitis swells or irritates the tissue about the thumb tendons and is the most common wrist and hand complaint for golfers. The interior side of the wrist is often very painful, including bending or extending of the wrist. Tendinitis can also occur in a golfer's elbow, where it inflames the tendons that attach to the intermedial elbow region. The 3 treatments are RICE, an acronym for rest, ice, compression, and elevation, which is a home remedy. Medications, which consist of pain relievers, corticosteroids, and platelet-rich plasma or PRPs, and physical therapy. My next example is anterior cruciate ligament injuries. So in the picture, you can see a defensive soccer player, number 11 here, making a risky sidestep movement with an extended leg, which later resulted in a ACL injury. So in addition to defensive play, off-balance landing on one foot is also a common culprit for ACL injury. An interesting fact I found is that females are actually more likely to injure their ACLs when defending and are at a greater risk for non-contact injuries in their left lower extremity. The 3 treatments are RICE, once again, rehab therapy, and surgery. And so for surgery, soccer players often undergo this choice because they want to continue playing soccer, which includes jumping, cutting, and pivoting, which they can't do with an injured ACL. And other factors also include if the ligament or the meniscus in the knee is injured, or if the knee buckles during daily activities. My third example is muscle cramps. And the example I'm going to give sport-wise is tennis. So tennis players often experience cramps due to strenuous exercise, muscle fatigue, dehydration, or loss of hydrolytes, as well as any other sport, of course, but yeah. And so the 3 treatments are stretching and massaging the muscle, applying ice, or heat, which can all further relieve the pain of the cramp. And so going back to an anecdote about my gymnastic days, I remember this one time I had like a really bad cramp in my calves. And so I told my coach about it, and so what he did was that he applied his weight onto my cramped leg, and he made my knee like bend slightly, and then just within like 20 seconds my cramp like instantly went away after he tried like stretching and massaging my cramp. And so that was pretty magical for like a 12-year-old when that happened, but now I know why. That's all I have for this little sneak peek. I hope you got something out of it, or maybe now you're interested in working with Fantastically Fit Forever Gym. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me at isabella@ffffgym.com, or you can use any of these resources listed here. Again, I'll be happy to answer any of them. Thank you for listening. Ciao!